Section 50 of The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Elizabeth Buchanan. The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1, by Cao Xueqin. Translated by Henry Bencraft Joly. Chapter 21, Part 2. As she spoke, they both got out of bed and performed their toilet; but after Pao-yü had gone to the drawing rooms, and at a moment least expected by any one, Tai-yü walked into his apartment. Noticing that Pao-yü was not in, she was fumbling with the books on the table and examining them, when, as luck would have it, she turned up the Chuang Tzu of the previous day. Upon perusing the passage tagged on by Pao-yü, she could not help feeling both incensed and amused; nor could she restrain herself from taking up the pen and appending a stanza to this effect: Who is that man who of his pen, without good rhyme, made use, a toilsome task to do in the Chuang Tzu text to steal? Who, for the knowledge he doth lack, no sense of shame doth feel, but language vile and foul employs third parties to abuse. At the conclusion of what she had to write, she too came into the drawing room; but after paying her respects to dowager lady Chia, she walked over to madame Wang's quarters. Contrary to everybody's expectations, lady Feng's daughter, Ta Chieh-erh, had fallen ill, and a great fuss was just going on as the doctor had been sent for to diagnose her ailment. "My congratulations to you, ladies," the doctor explained. "This young lady has a fever, as she has smallpox; indeed, it's no other complaint." As soon as madame Wang and lady Feng heard the tidings, they lost no time in sending round to ascertain whether she was getting on all right or not, and the doctor replied: "The symptoms are, it is true, serious, but favourable; but though after all importing no danger, it's necessary to get ready the silkworms and pig's tails." When lady Feng received this report, she, there and then, hastened to make the necessary preparations; and while she had the rooms swept, and oblations offered to the goddess of smallpox, she at the same time transmitted orders to her household to avoid viands fried or roasted in fat, or other such heating things, and also bade P'ing Erh to get ready the bedding and clothes for Chia Lien in a separate room; and taking pieces of deep red cotton material, she distributed them to the nurses, waiting maids, and all the servants, who were in close attendance, to cut out clothes for themselves; and having had, likewise, some apartments outside swept clean, she detained 2 doctors to alternately deliberate on the treatment, feel the pulse, and administer the medicines; and for 12 days they were not at liberty to return to their homes, while Chia Lien had no help but to move his quarters temporarily into the outer library; and lady Feng and P'ing Erh remained both in daily attendance upon madame Wang in her devotions to the goddess. Chia Lien, now that he was separated from lady Feng, soon felt disposed to look round for a flame. He had only slept alone for a couple of nights, but these nights had been so intensely intolerable that he had no option than to choose, for the time being, from among the young pages, those who were of handsome appearance, and bring them over to relieve his monotony. In the Jung Kuo mansion, there was, it happened, a cook, a most useless, good-for-nothing drunkard, whose name was To Kuan, in whom people recognised an infirm and a useless husband, so that they all dubbed him with the name To Hun Chuang, the stupid worm To. As the wife given to him in marriage by his father and mother was this year just 20, and possessed further several traits of beauty, and was also naturally of a flighty and frivolous disposition, she had an extreme penchant for violent flirtations. But To Hun Chuang, on the other hand, did not concern himself with her deportment, and as long as he had wine, meat and money, he paid no heed whatever to anything. And for this reason it was that all the men in the 2 mansions of Ning and Jung had been successful in their attentions; and as this woman was exceptionally fascinating and incomparably giddy, she was generally known by all by the name To Ku-ning, Miss To. Chia Lien, now that he had his quarters outside, chafed under the pangs of irksome ennui, Yet he too, in days gone by, had set his eyes upon this woman, and had for long watered in the mouth with admiration; but as inside he feared his winsome wife, and outside he dreaded his beloved lads, he had not made any advances. But this To Ku Niang had likewise a liking for Chia Lien, and was full of resentment at the absence of a favourable opportunity. But she had recently come to hear that Chia Lien had shifted his quarters into the outer library, and her wont was, even in the absence of any legitimate purpose, to go over 3 and 4 times to entice him on. But though Chia Lien was, in every respect, like a rat smitten with hunger, he could not dispense with holding consultation with the young friends who enjoyed his confidence; and as he struck a bargain with them for a large amount of money and silks, how could they ever not have come to terms with him to speak on his behalf? Besides, they were all old friends of this woman, so that, as soon as they conveyed the proposal, she willingly accepted it. When night came, To Han Chung was lying on the couch in a state of drunkenness, and at the second watch, when every one was quiet, Chia Lien at once slipped in, and they had their assignation. As soon as he gazed upon her face, he lost control over his senses, and without even one word of ordinary greeting or commonplace remark, they forthwith fervently indulged in a most endearing tête-à-tête. This woman possessed, who could have thought it, a strange natural charm; for as soon as any one of her lovers came within any close distance of her, he speedily could not but notice that her very tendons and bones mollified, paralysed like from feeling, so that his was the sensation of basking in a soft bower of love. What is more, her demonstrative ways and free and easy talk put even those of a born coquette to shame, with the result that while Chia Lien, at this time, longed to become heart and soul one with her, the woman designedly indulged in immodest innuendos. "Your daughter is at home," she insinuated in her recumbent position, "ill with the smallpox, and prayers are being offered to the goddess; and your duty too should be to abstain from love affairs for a couple of days; but on the contrary, by flirting with me, you've contaminated yourself; but you'd better be off at once from me here." "You're my goddess!" gaspingly protested Chia Lien, as he gave way to demonstrativeness. "What do I care about any other goddess?" The woman began to be still more indelicate in her manner, so that Chia Lien could not refrain himself from making a full exhibition of his warm sentiments. When their tête-à-tête had come to a close, they both went on again to vow by the mountains and swear by the seas; and though they found it difficult to part company, and hard to tear themselves away, they, in due course, became, after this occasion, mutual sworn friends. But by a certain day, the virus in Ta Chieh's system had become exhausted, and the spots subsided; and at the expiry of 12 days the goddess was removed, and the whole household offered sacrifices to heaven, worshipped the ancestors, paid their vows, burnt incense, exchanged congratulations, and distributed presents. And these formalities observed, Chia Lien once more moved back into his own bedroom, and was reunited with lady Feng. The proverb is indeed true which says that a new marriage is not equal to a long separation, for there ensued between them demonstrations of loving affection still more numerous than heretofore, to which we need not, of course, refer with any minuteness. The next day, at an early hour, after lady Feng had gone into the upper rooms, P'ing Erh set to work to put in order the clothes and bedding, which had been brought from outside, when, contrary to her expectation, a tress of hair fell out from inside the pillow case, as she was intent upon shaking it. P'ing Erh understood its import, and taking at once the hair, she concealed it in her sleeve, and there and then came over into the room on this side, where she produced the hair and smirkingly asked Chia Lien: "What's this?" Chia Lien, at the sight of it, lost no time in making a snatch, with the idea of depriving her of it; and when P'ing Erh speedily endeavoured to run away, she was clutched by Chia Lien, who put her down on the stove couch and came up to take it from her hand. "You heartless fellow," P'ing Erh laughingly exclaimed, "I conceal this, with every good purpose, from her knowledge, and come to ask you about it, and you, on the contrary, fly into a rage! but wait till she comes back, and I'll tell her, and we'll see what will happen." At these words, Chia Lien hastily forced a smile. "Dear girl," he entreated, "give it to me, and I won't venture again to fly into a passion." But hardly was this remark finished, when they heard the voice of lady Feng penetrate into the room. As soon as it reached the ear of Chia Lien, he was at a loss whether it was better to let her go or to snatch it away, and kept on shouting: "My dear girl, don't let her know!" P'ing Erh at once rose to her feet, but lady Feng had already entered the room, and she went on to bid P'ing Erh be quick and open a box and find a pattern for madame Wang. P'ing Erh expressed her obedience with alacrity, but while in search of it, lady Feng caught sight of Chia Lien, and suddenly remembering something, she hastened to ask P'ing Erh about it. "The other day," she observed, "some things were taken out, and have you brought them all in or not?" "I have," P'ing Erh assented. "Is there anything short or not?" lady Feng inquired. "I've carefully looked at them," P'ing Erh added, "and haven't found even one single thing short." "Is there anything in excess?" lady Feng went on to ascertain. P'ing Erh laughed. "It's enough," she rejoined, "that there's nothing short, and how could there really turn out to be anything over and above?" "That this half month," lady Feng continued, still smiling, "things have gone on immaculately, it would be hard to vouch, for some intimate friend there may have been, who possibly has left something behind, in the shape of a ring, handkerchief, or other such object. There's no saying for certain." While these words were being spoken, Chia Lien's face turned perfectly sallow, and as he stood behind lady Feng, he was intent upon gazing at P'ing Erh, making signs to her that he was going to cut her throat as a chicken is killed, threatening her not to utter a sound, and entreating her to screen him; but P'ing Erh pretended not to notice him, and consequently observed smiling: "How is it that my ideas should coincide with those of yours, my lady? And as I suspected that there may have been something of the kind, I carefully searched all over, but I didn't find even so much as the slightest thing wrong; and if you don't believe me, my lady, you can search for your own self." "You fool!" lady Feng laughed. "Had he any things of the sort, would he be likely to let you and I discover them?" With these words still on her lips, she took the patterns and went on her way; whereupon P'ing Erh pointed at her nose, and shook her head to and fro. "In this matter," she smiled, "how much you should be grateful to me!" a remark which so delighted Chia Lien that his eyebrows distended, and his eyes smiled, and running over, he clasped her in his embrace, and called her promiscuously: "My darling pet, my own treasure!" "This," observed P'ing Erh, with the tress in her hand, "will be my source of power, during all my lifetime. If you treat me kindly, then well and good; but if you behave unkindly, then we'll at once produce this thing." "Do put it away, please," Chia Lien entreated smirkingly, "and don't on any account let her know about it." And as he uttered these words, he noticed that she was off her guard, and, with a snatch, readily grabbed it, adding laughingly: "In your hands it would be a source of woe, so that it's better that I should burn it and have done with it." Saying this, he simultaneously shoved it down the sides of his boot, while P'ing Erh shouted as she set her teeth close: "You wicked man! You cross the river and then demolish the bridge, but do you imagine that I'll by and by again tell lies on your behalf?" Chia Lien, perceiving how heart stirring her seductive charms were, forthwith clasped her in his arms, and begged her to be his; but P'ing Erh snatched her hands out of his grasp, and ran away out of the room; which so exasperated Chia Lien that as he bent his body, he exclaimed, full of indignation: "What a dreadful niggardly young wench! She actually sets up her mind to stir up people's affections with her wanton blandishments, and then after all she runs away!" "If I be wanton, it's my own lookout," P'ing Erh answered, from outside the window, with a grin; "and who told you to arouse your affections? Do you forsooth mean to imply that my wish is to become your tool, and did she come to know about it, would she ever again forgive me?" "You needn't dread her," Chia Lien urged. "Wait till my monkey is up, and I'll take this jealous woman and beat her to atoms, and she'll then know what stuff I'm made of! She watches me just as she would watch a thief, and she's only to hobnob with men, and I'm not to say a word to any girl; and if I do say aught to a girl, or get anywhere near one, she must at once give way to suspicion; but with no regard to younger brothers or nephews, to young and old, she prattles and giggles with them, and doesn't entertain any fear that I may be jealous; but henceforward I too won't allow her to set eyes upon any man." "If she be jealous, there's every reason," P'ing Erh answered; "but for you to be jealous on her account isn't right. Her conduct is really straightforward, and her deportment upright; but your conduct is actuated by an evil heart, so much so that I don't even feel my heart at ease, not to say anything of her. You too," continued Chia Lien, "have a mouthful of malicious breath. Everything the couple of you do is invariably proper, while whatever I do is all from an evil heart. But some time or other I shall bring you both to your end with my own hands." This sentence was scarcely at an end, when lady Feng walked into the court. "If you're bent upon chatting," she urgently inquired, upon seeing P'ing Erh outside the window, "why don't you go into the room? And what do you mean, instead, by running out and speaking with the window between?" Chia Lien from inside took up the string of the conversation. "You should ask her," he said. "It would verily seem as if there was a tiger in the room to eat her up." "There's not a single person in the room," P'ing Erh rejoined, "and what shall I stay and do with him?" "It's just the proper thing that there should be no one else, isn't it?" lady Feng remarked, grinning sarcastically. "Do these words allude to me?" P'ing Erh hastily asked, as soon as she had heard what she said. Lady Feng forthwith laughed. "If they don't allude to you," she continued, "to whom do they?" "Don't press me to come out with some nice things!" P'ing Erh insinuated; and, as she spoke, she did not even raise the portiere for lady Feng to enter, but straightway betook herself to the opposite side. Lady Feng lifted the portiere with her own hands and walked into the room. "That girl P'ing Erh," she exclaimed, "has gone mad; and if this hussy does in real earnest wish to try and get the upper hand of me, it would be well for you to mind your skin." Chia Lien listened to her, as he kept reclining on the couch. "I never in the least knew," he ventured, clapping his hands and laughing, "that P'ing Erh was so dreadful; and I must, after all, from henceforth look up to her with respect." "It's all through your humouring her," lady Feng rejoined, "so I'll simply settle scores with you and finish with it." "Ts'ui!" ejaculated Chia Lien at these words. "Because you two can't agree, must you again make a scapegoat of me? Well then, I'll get out of the way of both of you." "I'll see where you'll go and hide," lady Feng observed. "I've got somewhere to go," Chia Lien added; and with these words, he was about to go, when lady Feng urged: "Don't be off, I have something to tell you." What it is not yet known, but reader, listen to the account given in the next chapter. End of Section 50.